Hi, Emma.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you again.
It's lovely to see you.
I thought you would be the perfect person for this discussion today, which is just focusing on durability and timelessness, um,
Fantastic.
which are two different brackets, really, aren't they? But I thought it'd be really good to combine the two because you, being the entrepreneur behind Socko Shop, pretty much tick those boxes all together, but combined as one. So, what would you say would be the difference? Primarily, what would you say in a nutshell the difference between durability and timelessness?
Yeah, so durability is just how long something is going to last. So you could have one of those classic 80s shoulder pad numbers that you don't really see around so much these days. And that could be made out of the most durable fibers and last for, you know, it could be handed down generations, but it's not timeless because it's not something that people are drawn to wearing nowadays, for example.
Mm.
So it's durable, but it's not timeless. I think what's great about h.huna's stuff is that you're ticking both boxes. It's both durable and it's timeless. So it's something that the durability, like we said in our previous conversation about wrap and their insight into the longevity of clothing and actually extending the life of the clothes that we have rather than always buying and replacing each time. So yeah, I think that it's that combination of the two that actually leads to a really strong slow fashion item.
Then how would you say to combine the two? So you've kind of drawn it together, I guess. You've kind of mentioned that in the what you just responded to there. You said about the combination of the two. I guess, yeah, it is like with my collection here, it is a case of the fabrics that are used alongside the timelessness of the product. Would you say it would be the same for you as well? Because I know at the moment you've got one collection, but would your forthcoming collection be in the same texture, or would it be like a brand new
So
yarn?
I think the timelessness of part of the reason for picking socks is because it's not something where you need to produce 12 collections a year to stay relevant. It's something that can be timeless. I mean, if you look in a lot of people's underwear sock drawers, there are probably remnants in there that have been kicking about since, the the 90s or whatever. The amount of time that we spend sorting through our socks and pants is because it's rarely seen, and it's kind of seen as a necessity rather than necessarily a fashion item by a lot of people. It's something that you can wear season in, season out. So in terms of the collections that I produce, it's, I guess, the fibre defines the season. So the merino wool, although being a natural fibre, it's breathable. It keeps you warm in the colder months, but also wicks away moisture to keep you cooler in the warmer months. And then I have a cotton collection as well, but again, it's quite a thick cotton and quite a traditional knit. So it's something that I was kind of working with what my manufacturers were able to do and comfortable doing, and clearly they know a lot about socks and using their expertise rather than just going in and going, right, I want this, and they just wouldn't work like that.
No.
Who am I to go in and say this is the way we're doing things from now on? In fact, in our first meeting, I remember my manufacturer saying, if you want Mickey Mouse on your socks, you're gonna have to go elsewhere. I was like, don't worry, I don't want Mickey Mouse on my socks. What can you do? What can we do? And so actually the first collection was just a contrast heel and toe, so keeping it really, really simple, but using offcuts, so using yarn that would otherwise have gone to waste. And actually the creativity came through in the color combinations and finding a way that would work again in a timeless way, in that, you know, it's not just kind of using the color of that season. It's using things that can be combined and reworked in different ways.
And how do you dye the yarn, or do you buy the yarn already dyed and use that colour in the heel and the toe contrast, say?
Exactly right, yeah. So the part of the challenge is using offcuts. So I've got a middleman who sources yarn from mills around the UK, and I have been up to his warehouse just north of Manchester, and we literally are weighing out big big skeins of yarn to work out, you know, I buy it by the weight, and it's a mix of colours. I kind of do a rough pick then of what he can send me some little swatches. It's going to work, but no, there's no dyeing involved. It is just using what's left from longer runs of larger items, or there's just a colour that they're not using anymore, and it's more efficient for them to just throw it away. Whereas it's perfect for socks. It's still beautiful quality fibre, so that's part of how Socko came to be.
And do you find that through some of the colours, or actually, how do you combine, or do you combine the yarn types, or do you find it difficult to find like a merino wool that you can have both on the heel, the toe, and the foot? Do you find it difficult to find that with colours that actually combine and are seasonless as well, timeless?
Yeah. So I mean, it's funny that it's always slightly risky in terms of I can only produce, say, 67 pairs in this color combination and only 42 in that color combination, and whatever it may be, and you can never really gauge what's going to be the more popular, and then having to say to people, well, we only have that in that one color in that one size. It's not what customers are used to in terms of being like, right, well, I'll take that in a large, which you then got to say, well, I've got these in a large instead. But I'm really excited about, at the moment I'm working on a recycled range, and I'll have a bit more control over the colour continuity there, because it's using t-shirt offcuts as the raw cotton fibre. And in socks you need a nylon that sits behind whether it's a cotton or a wool. You need a little bit of nylon to give it that added durability. As we said, durability is key. And that nylon I have sourced from a brand called Econil, and it's made using recycled fishing nets. So it's amazing what they can do in terms of the kind of ingenuity that goes into fibre. But that gives me that little bit more control, where I can actually buy things in larger quantities, whereas at the moment it's very much kind of little bit of this, little bit of that, putting it together in a way that isn't offensive and kind of going off that. So.
Yeah, I've never actually thought about it like that before now, when it comes to you and your brand, a case of you buy what's available, but then they need to sit with one another, both across the colour, both across the composition, and within the like your brand Socko shop and what you're all about. That's definitely a trickster.
Yeah. But I think what is fortunate about socks, and I'd love your opinion on this in terms of kind of piecing an outfit together, is that if you've got the staples, the kind of capsule wardrobe that has the basics in quite standard sort of black, white, grey, neutral colours, to then jazz it up with something that's a little bit more out there, can actually be a really fun way of making an outfit your own, and really kind of giving it that unique kind of personality that comes through accessorizing, and that only adds to the timelessness of the outfit as a whole.
Yeah, definitely, and I'll agree 100% with that. It's so, it's so rewarding to see how people style things to suit them, and throughout the year as well. So like everybody at the moment, they're talking about socks and sandals. I love the idea. Some people don't like the idea, but it still means that you want your socks, you want those breathable socks for the summer, for this kind of weather, but you'll wear it with some open toe sandals. So it goes to all extremes, really, doesn't it? I guess like how people view that type of garment. So like for me and a cardigan, the wool that we use for that, lamb's wool, it's surprisingly lightweight. And when I was trialing it, I wore it back in the day when I was travelling on the tube and I was going up to Heathrow, and I thought I would be sweltering on the train, and I wasn't, because I could actually, the jumper was just so comfortable, so lightweight and so breathable, yet I didn't feel at all hot. It was amazing. And I think that just goes to show that, you know, we make these things for these purposes, for these timeless times, that you can adopt for them to fit in with you and your style and your wardrobe.
Absolutely. And I think it does, the onus is on the brand to do that research and to do that legwork and to make a product that is fit for its purpose, to make it easier for people to know that they're making the right choice, and that due diligence has been done. I think that's really where the brand can come in and do that.
I think like the reflection of that in the brand, I think that does come across. I think when you show your customers how, this is what I'm trying to work on at the moment, just showing how to wear these pieces throughout these warmer periods. So whether it be like something like I would combine it with a pair of jeans, and like, say for instance, like this vest top here, it's like something you can just throw on for like a casual everyday thing, and you've got with your other wardrobe necessities that you would consider a compulsory piece to own. And that is how I'm trying to show the longevity potential to each and every garment we have, plus the timeless side of things. I mean, how do you do that with your socks to reiterate the fact that, I know we'll come on to the durability side of things in a moment, but the timeless side of things, how would you
I think the fact that they are a really classic design. So the only thing that I've done, which is kind of out of my manufacturer's comfort zone, is that I've just made it slightly shorter. So having done some research into what people like and wear, I mean, my manufacturer's used to making things like kilt socks, which are, or shooting socks, which kind of can't come up to the knee, quite utilitarian. And so I've come in and going, I want something unisex. I want it to be, a couple of inches shorter than what you'd normally do. And they've been receptive to that. And it's tricky with socks because you can't please everyone, and so I'll get people kind of coming and going, oh, do you do like a sports sock, or do you do kids socks, or do you do and at the moment I don't, because you've got to start somewhere, and you can't please everyone, but in terms of the timelessness, I think, like you say, we'll go on to durability, but the main component of what makes Socko socks timeless is the aspect of mending or personalizing, or I think it's actually forming that connection with an item that will, not only knowing the story of how it came to be, but then forming your own connection with it. And so whether that's through repair, or whether it's through embellishment and kind of adding a little bit of embroidery, or pairing it with something that you're going to wear, it's making that connection yourself, and I think that's where the timelessness kind of comes in, is that you create your own story around it, and
you really want to kind of get that down to the ground, and you want to get that perfected, because I think that is your niche, and that's what you're all about. Like you saying just there, people saying, do you do football socks, do you do school socks? You could do those, but they take away from what your brand is all about and what you're really trying to chisel down to actually get that that sock that's an everlasting sock, that's something that can be worn time and time and time again throughout the year. Maybe the football socks might come along further along the line, but I think they would be more seen as an add-on. They're not your prime niche, what everyone associates Socko Shop with. And I think it would take away from the brand, really, wouldn't it?
Well, I think you have to have a really clear idea of what your brand is and what its mission is, and that's something that I can always kind of anchor back to and say, right, we're all about extending the active life of clothing through reteaching the lost art of darning, and that's something that I know is at the heart of what I'm doing. So whenever I'm making a decision, I'm obviously making it with my own kind of ethical lens to make sure that it's something that I feel comfortable doing. You can't do everything perfectly, and I think you need to be realistic, and but the more single-minded you can be in terms of, right, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this really well, the more you'll set yourself apart. Whereas if you're trying to kind of do everything really well all at the same time, then it's gonna people are going to pick holes in it, literally, probably. And that's the last thing that you want, because I'm sure it's the same for you as well, Siobhan, that it's a passion project that's become a business. It's something that you feel incredibly connected to, and it's a kind of an extension of yourself, which is one of the great things about shopping locally and shopping independent, is that it's not just another faceless conglomerate. It's something that you're actually making a difference to someone's life, and you know, getting a compliment on my socks is almost like saying, good job, Em, like you did a great thing there, and that's a great feeling. So I think that connection that you get as well on a more personal level is, I think I've gone off on a tangent, but
yeah, no, definitely 100% is. It's just like that even seeing someone wear your products, it's such a big slap on the back. It's
definitely,
yeah, it's so rewarding. I don't know about you, but sometimes whenever I send a product, whenever I post a purchase off, I always feel a bit like, oh, I hope she's going to like it. I hope she actually fits in with her wardrobe. I hope it. I can't help but feel, because it's like my baby, really. I want my baby to fit in with her style and what she expects of that product. And then like the timelessness as well. Like, for instance, so coming on to the timeless bits now with you, and you, what you pride yourself on. I think for me, it's the caring for the garments, and I do want to actually offer that opportunity to say, you have a product, we've got a lifetime warranty on each and every product, and if there is any fault, the product does come into a fault, we'd love for it to be like sent back and we can repair it for you. But that's for me, that's something that I'm looking into, whereas for you, that's already something you have.
That's really at the heart of what we do, and it's been incredibly important from day one. So ideally, I want to teach people how to mend. I will happily mend your Socko socks for you, but I think it's actually the craft of darning is something that is really satisfying. It's quite a mindful activity. It's something you can just do in front of the telly, but it does create that bond that we were talking about earlier, about connecting you to that piece in some way. And I think we touched on it in our last conversation, but there's a big trend at the moment for visible mending as well, and really celebrating the fact that you've taken the time to extend the life of that garment, that item, and it's very much something that is showing that you could easily have thrown it away, but you haven't, and you've invested, you've made a commitment to that item to really keep it going for as long as possible, and that at the end of its life, I think something that brands really need to be aware of, especially new brands who are launching or in the kind of development stage, need to really think about the circular economy and what happens to your item at the end of its life. You know, it's not good enough to be like, it's just gonna go to landfill or it's gonna be incinerated. You know, I want to keep, I guess another bigger mission, I want to keep socks out of landfill. That sounds like a t-shirt. But no, it's, in all seriousness, you know, you need to think about the recycling and what we can do to keep things going. And if we think about the triangle of reduce, reuse, recycle, actually recycling should kind of be the last step in that process. Ideally, we need to be reusing our things and using them for as long as possible, rather than defaulting to recycling, especially when so socks, for example, as I mentioned, they have that nylon layer, so that's not biodegradable, as if you are going to recycle in the most efficient way possible. So you know, it's all a long process, and it's not straightforward. But of course, there are fabric recycling centres where things get shredded down and used for things like insulation in houses, and all sorts of other great uses. But if we can actually
do it ourselves, I think.
Do it ourselves,
yeah.
and or find a way to reuse it and repurpose it ourselves. Again, in the book that I've written, I've got a whole chapter on kind of upcycling ideas, and I think the word upcycling can seem a little bit, certainly for me anyway, I like things to be kind of done just right, and the idea of kind of getting a glue gun out and putting some feathers on something just doesn't quite, it kind of gels with me. But I've given about 20 different examples of things that you can do that aren't glue gun focused, and can actually be useful, and save an item from going into landfill if it's beyond repair, or just enhancing it in a way that makes it your own. So there are lots of ways that we can be more sustainable just with the things that we already own as well.
And I think it's so rewarding as well when you actually learn these new things. You're so chuffed with yourself at the end that you actually used your own talent, or like new talent, to actually darn that sock. Or for me, I was, when I a while back now, when I looked up how to like a split in a pair of jeans, like just around like the leg part, when I actually got like a good bit of fabric and I YouTubed like the precise way of darning it, when I finished that, I was so happy with myself. I was saying to my husband, you know, I can darn yours, no problem.
Yay!
I can do it for you.
It's a great feeling.
It is, yeah. You've learned a new skill, and you've got more use out of that product that you thought might have come to the end of its time, but it hasn't. There's just so much potential there for that product that you own. I
think there's a lovely caring element to it. The fact that, like you just said, that you offered to your husband, you know, like, you could do that for you as well, and he was a bit like, but that I kind of like the idea of like mend for a friend. It's that kind of caring thing that you can do that with a new skill, that passes it on, and also gets the conversation going, because really that's what it's an awareness job that needs to happen. People are waking up to the fact that fast fashion is bad, but don't necessarily know what to do to counter it. And so by talking about things like repair and extending the life of our clothing, we're doing an education piece as well. So.
And you're right about the people, they take it, I guess they see it as a good thing that they take it to a charity shop, but once they're kind of rid of it, wipe their hands clean, they don't know what happens from there on. I was listening to a really good podcast with MP Mary Cree, or Mary McCree, something like that. And she was talking about it, really. I have to remember what it was. There was it was on the podcast with the I think she's Elle Australia. Is it Elle, or is it
Claire Press?
Yes, that's it. Yes.
Yeah.
Podcast. And it was amazing. Some of the things she was talking about, and I haven't read it all yet, but she put together a really big report on how she brought it to Parliament, a fact that what we should look at with our clothing. And she was talking about how she went to I forget what part of the UK it was now, but the main Oxfam unit, and what they were doing. They were like the number of wedding dresses that were there, and like people just rid of their wedding dresses, and then what they did of some of the I think it was coats, that's it, the number of coats that they got back and what they actually can do with those. But then the rest of it is just sitting there, and they can't rid of it, and you can't send it to Africa, or you can't send it to other countries, because they're building up and up and up and up of so much unwanted produce, a lot of which is made from synthetic fabrics, which they can't be recycled. So they in turn it just sits there, and I guess no one really knows of this, do they? They don't know of this. That's why it's so important to actually know that you can prevent this. You can actually, with what talent you can adopt, you can prevent all of this, which hopefully is now starting to become known, that people actually start to know what happens to their product once they're rid of it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think, definitely by all means, we don't want to prevent people from donating to charities, because it's a huge source of income for them. And I'm sure there'll be a massive, once we're out of lockdown, there'll be a massive surge in the number of donations, as people have kind of had a chance to have a clear out and all the rest. But you're right. And films like The True Cost, where it really delves into that impact that it has, like you say, if things get shipped to Africa, it's impacting on the local economy out there, as well as obviously the carbon footprint of shifting world. Whereas if we have items that we think things that last a lifetime, that are durable and timeless, then that's a really good start in making less of an impact in the
I guess, like, moving on to the next bit, how would you say it would be best so the durability that we have in our garments, how do you find it the best way to portray that durability that you have? Do you, because you've got your about page and you're talking about what your fibers are, what you're going to look into, what you're currently looking into, so that's like how you kind of delve a bit deeper. But in your socks themselves, where you are, well, do you do it at markets anymore? Do you still do the market stalls?
At the moment, we can't, no.
But
they're opening up outdoor markets again, I believe. But my regular was Spitalfields, so I'm not sure. I haven't heard from them yet what because technically it's covered. I don't know what the situation is going to be. So I think one of my pieces of advice in the book is about shopping in real life, if you can, because actually you can feel the quality of a piece of clothing. You can check the composition. If you're shopping small or independent, you're often speaking to the person who has done the research, has made the choices that make it more durable. So you can really, it gives you a chance to really kind of quiz them and find out more. So there are, it's hard with selling online, because it is just the words that can sort of talk about the level of durability, whereas if you can actually feel it with your people go, oh, it's a lot softer than I was expecting, because you kind of think of a durable product as being quite hardy and a bit rough, but actually these are luxury products. There's nothing to say that a durable product has to be a hardy, wiry product. There's a great company called Buy Me Once, who I've just started stocking with, who are really seeking out those particularly durable products, and that's not just within clothing, but through to sort of pots and pans and things that are really made well and made to last. There are people out there who are kind of doing the legwork for you, like sort of finding those durable products.
And I guess you just kind of do the comfort level as well that you have in your products. I guess that's just to show that you can wear it across any time, any day, any particular event and things like that. You want to show that's one of the prime things that people look for when they go shopping these days, to look at that side of things. And then who or what would you say would be your inspiration, whether it be now or whether it be when you first started, or is there anything there that kind of jumps to mind to you?
That's such a good question, because I like to think that I've kind of got inspiration from all different sectors, and I think that's kind of where inspiration strikes. I don't think it's been just a case of kind of seeing a particular fashion brand or an activist and or a use of color, or I don't think there's one specific thing that I could kind of pin down as being my key inspiration, and I think that's kind of part of what hopefully makes my product unique, is that it's a combination of lots of different things. There are definitely, you know, just if I look through kind of my Instagram of people that I follow and enjoy, I really love all the kind of craft accounts, so I'm heavily influenced by craft. There are loads of amazing people out there doing all sorts of fantastic things, so actually following hashtags rather than people sometimes is a great way of I think I've always had a design element. I studied graphic design back in the day on my BA, and I grew up with, my mum was or still is, sorry, I should say, a product designer, and my dad was an architect. And so, having that kind of influence from a very early age as well, I think has kind of fed into appreciation for aesthetics and how things visually work as well. So it's hard to sort of pin down one particular person. How about you? What would you say, Siobhan? Who do you?
Well, I think it's kind of the same as you, but I think I will look at my factory and how they work, and how they keep everyone to their, so like the pattern cutters, for instance, and how they do it. When I went down to visit the factory in Tottenham, the guy who was there, he had like the fabrics laid out layer upon layer upon layer, and he was just gliding through it just with his cutter and his steel glove, and it's just like he's just so precise with every single like point, and like he did it in a matter of like a few minutes, and that must have been about 10 to 15 layers of fabric. So like there you go, you've got one piece done. I think
skilled, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's the workmanship that I see in the factory and what they do. And there was another seamstress, and he was saying to me about how he thinks I think it was just where the zipper was, and how he just wanted a bit of clarity from me, like this proto sample here, it looks a bit kind of botched, because I made it in another factory when I was first of all testing out like the quality workmanship from factory to factory, and he totally dismissed it, found it something that it was just so unprofessional, and he was just more or less saying, this is what I'm going to do, are you okay with that? Fine, okay, we'll go ahead. And I think that's my inspiration, to see them. They've got their talent down to a T, and they're just, you know what, they're just going to go ahead with it. I guess it's the same for you and the guys when they're like manufacturing your socks for you. Like you say, the fact that you said to reduce it by a few inches, they kind of like, they were just startled by that,
like, we've not done it like that before. I mean, everything from kind of attaching the labels and I ended up for the first range hand stitching each of the cards onto the socks. Watched the whole of Friends from beginning to end, and just sat there and just but it's one of those things that even now I'm smiling about, and I can look back and laugh about. And it is a learning curve, and you'd be foolish not to take into account people's expertise, who, you know, they have made a life's work out of it, and like the point I was making about learning from the past as well, and your inspiration of your nan, like that sense of passing on those skills and learning from the ways that things were done in the past is definitely something that I hold very dear.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to come back in for a chat.
That was a really good chat. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, really good.
Me too.
Okay, well,
really nice See you, Siobhan.
You too, and we'll probably no doubt catch up soon.
For sure.
I'll pop down to see you around Spitalfields when that opens up again.
Yeah, definitely. Or when you're seeing your manufacturer, I'm in Tottenham as well. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, lovely. Oh well, thank you again, Emma.
Great. Take care.
You too.
Have a great
Bye.
day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.